What if the ground beneath your feet isn't solid, but hollow? Not empty, not natural, but filled with structures, rooms, tunnels, entire cities, built by people who chose to live where no one could see them. Imagine walking through an ancient city. The sun is shining, markets are alive, voices echo through stone streets. Everything feels normal. But below you, just meters beneath your feet, another world exists, hidden, silent, waiting. Before we descend into this hidden layer, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to uncover will completely change the way you see ancient civilizations. Because history doesn't just exist above the ground, it exists beneath it. One of the most astonishing examples of this hidden world lies beneath Cappadocia. At first glance, Cappadocia looks like something from another planet. Strange rock formations, ancient homes carved into cliffs, a landscape shaped by time and nature. But what lies beneath it is far more extraordinary. Deep underground, carved into soft volcanic rock, is one of the largest hidden cities ever discovered. Derinkuyu Underground City. This is not a cave. It is not a simple shelter. It is a fully engineered underground city, stretching multiple levels deep into the earth. As you descend, level by level, the scale becomes overwhelming. Rooms carved into stone walls, narrow corridors connecting entire sections, hidden passageways designed to confuse anyone unfamiliar with the layout. And then you begin to realize something. This place was not built in a rush. It was planned, carefully, intentionally, because everything has a purpose. Living quarters where families once slept, storage rooms filled with food supplies, animal stables carved into the rock, kitchens, wells, even communal areas where people could gather. And then there are the ventilation shafts, deep vertical channels that bring fresh air into the lowest levels. Without them, survival underground would be impossible. But with them, thousands of people could live below the surface. And that's exactly what the city could support. Estimates suggest that Derinkuyu could hold up to 20,000 people. Think about that. 20,000 people living underground, not temporarily, but for extended periods, hidden from the world above. And the deeper you go, the more one question begins to grow louder. Why? Why build something like this? Because carving into rock is not easy. It takes time, labor, skill, resources, and most importantly, a reason. One explanation is invasion. This region has seen centuries of conflict. Armies moved through the land. Cities were attacked. Lives were disrupted. On the surface, everything was vulnerable. But underground, everything changes. Entrances could be hidden. Tunnels could be sealed. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing hundreds of kilograms, could be rolled into place, blocking access completely. Once closed, these doors turned the city into a fortress, an invisible fortress. From the outside, it would appear as if no one was there. An entire population, gone, but still alive just beneath the surface. And Derinkuyu is not alone. Nearby, another underground city exists. Cappadocia Underground City. Smaller in scale, but just as complex. Multiple levels, hidden chambers, narrow tunnels designed for control and defense. And here's where things become even more interesting. Evidence suggests that these cities may have been connected through underground tunnels. If true, this means something incredible. People could move between cities without ever coming to the surface. A hidden network, a world beneath the world. And suddenly, this is no longer just about survival. It becomes something bigger, a system, a strategy, because building one underground city is impressive, but building multiple and possibly connecting them, that requires planning on a completely different level. And this idea doesn't stop in one region, because similar underground structures have been found across the world. In Rome, beneath the modern streets, lies a vast network of tunnels known as the Roman catacombs. At first glance, they seem like burial grounds. Long corridors lined with tombs. Quiet, still, but when you look closer, you realize their scale. Kilometers of tunnels, multiple layers, hidden chambers, and during times of persecution, these catacombs became places of refuge. People gathered here, moved through hidden passageways, lived in silence beneath the city. Once again, we see the same pattern. The underground is a place of survival, a hidden layer of civilization. Now shift your focus to ancient Egypt, a civilization known for its massive structures above the ground, pyramids, temples, monuments. But beneath these structures lies another mystery. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, modern scans have revealed hidden voids, spaces that were intentionally built but never clearly explained. They are not living areas, not storage rooms, and yet they exist, carefully placed, precisely constructed, which raises a powerful question. What were they built for? Because when you connect all these examples, Cappadocia, Rome, Egypt, you begin to see something undeniable. Different civilizations, different time periods, different environments, and yet the same idea. Build below, hide below, survive below. But here's where things become even more interesting. Because not all underground spaces show signs of emergency use. Some appear calm, organized, intentional, as if they were part of everyday life. Which leads to an even bigger question. Were these underground cities only used in times of crisis? Or were they always part of the civilization? Did people move between surface and underground regularly? Did they live part of their lives below? Because if that's true, then everything we think we know about ancient cities is incomplete. We imagine them as surface structures. But maybe every city had a second layer. Hidden, invisible, unknown. And if that's the case, how much of it is still out there? Because even today, discoveries continue. Construction projects uncover hidden tunnels. Archaeologists detect unknown chambers beneath ruins. Entire underground spaces are revealed after being sealed for centuries, which means one thing. We have not found everything, not even close. There may still be entire underground worlds waiting to be discovered, buried beneath deserts, hidden beneath forests, lying beneath modern cities. And when they are found, they may reveal something we are not prepared to understand, because the deeper we go, the more mysterious it becomes. And in the next part, we go even deeper, into the design, the engineering, the intelligence behind these underground worlds, because these were not primitive structures. They were advanced, planned, and possibly built with knowledge we still don't fully understand. Stay with the story, because what lies beneath is far more complex than anyone ever imagined. What if these underground cities were not just places to hide, but perfectly engineered systems designed to keep people alive, no matter what happened above? Because the deeper we look into these hidden worlds, the more one truth becomes clear. These were not built in panic. They were built with precision, with planning, with a level of understanding that feels far ahead of its time. Before we go deeper, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to discover may completely change the way you see ancient engineering. Because now, we are no longer asking why they built underground. We are asking how they made survival possible deep beneath the earth. Let's return beneath Cappadocia. Inside Derinkuyu Underground City, every level reveals something extraordinary. This is not just carved rock. This is a system, a survival system, and every part of it works together. Take the ventilation shafts. At first glance, they seem simple, vertical holes carved into the ground. But in reality, they are one of the most advanced features of the entire structure. Some of these shafts extend more than 50 meters deep. They are carefully positioned to allow fresh air to flow through multiple levels. Even the deepest chambers receive oxygen. Without modern tools, without electricity, ancient builders created a natural airflow system capable of supporting thousands of people underground. That alone is remarkable. But it doesn't stop there. Water, one of the most critical elements for survival, was also carefully planned. Deep wells were carved into underground water sources. But here's what makes them even more fascinating. Some of these wells were accessible only from inside the city, which means that even if enemies discovered the surface entrance, they could not poison the water supply. This is not just engineering. This is strategy. Now think about food. If people were going to stay underground for long periods, they needed reliable storage. Large storage rooms were carved into the rock. Grain could be preserved. Supplies could be protected. Food systems were designed for long-term survival. This was not temporary. This was sustainable. And then there's movement. The tunnels are narrow, controlled, often forcing people to move in single file. At first, This may seem like a limitation, but from a defensive perspective, it's genius. If enemies enter the tunnels, they would be slowed down, exposed, easy to defend against. Meanwhile, the people inside would have the advantage. And then there are the doors. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing hundreds of kilograms, placed at key points throughout the tunnels. These doors could be rolled into place from the inside. Once sealed, they blocked entire sections of the city. From the outside, they were nearly impossible to break through. It's a layered defense system, something we associate with modern design, and yet it existed thousands of years ago, which leads to a powerful realization. These underground cities were not just shelters, they were complete systems, designed to sustain life under extreme conditions. And this idea doesn't exist in isolation, because when we look beyond Cappadocia, we begin to see similar patterns. In Rome, beneath the streets, the Roman catacombs stretch for kilometers. At first, they appear to be burial sites, but their structure reveals something more. They are organized, layered, extensive. During times of danger, these tunnels became places of refuge. People moved through them, gathered in hidden chambers, survived beneath the city. Once again, the underground becomes a place where life continues, even when the surface becomes dangerous. Now shift your attention to ancient Egypt, a civilization known for its monumental architecture. But beneath the surface, we find something equally fascinating. Hidden voids inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Modern scanning technology has revealed spaces that were intentionally built, yet remain unexplored. These are not living spaces, not storage rooms, and yet they were constructed with incredible precision, which raises an important question. If they were not designed for survival, then what were they designed for? Because when we compare these underground structures across different civilizations, a pattern begins to emerge. Planning, precision, purpose, and perhaps most importantly, preparation. Preparation for what? That's the question that keeps returning. Because building underground requires effort, time, resources, and a clear reason. You don't create something this complex without expecting to use it. One explanation is environmental. Underground spaces provide stable temperatures, protection from extreme heat and cold. In regions with unpredictable climates, this would be a major advantage. Another explanation is conflict, war, invasion, instability. In such conditions, underground cities would offer safety, a place where entire populations could disappear without leaving the land. But even these explanations may not be enough, because the scale of some underground systems goes far beyond what is needed for short-term survival. They are too large, too complex, too advanced, which suggests something deeper. What if ancient civilizations understood risk in a way we don't fully understand today? What if they anticipated long-term threats? Not just immediate danger, but prolonged instability? Because if that's true, then these underground cities were not just built as a reaction. They were built as a strategy, a long-term plan for survival, a way to ensure continuity, no matter what happened above. And that idea changes everything, because it means these civilizations were thinking ahead, planning for scenarios that might not happen immediately, preparing for a future they could not fully predict. And that level of thinking is not primitive, it's advanced, highly advanced, which brings us to the next stage of this journey. Because if these underground cities were designed as systems, then the next question becomes even more important. Were they connected? Because if they were, then we are not just looking at isolated survival systems. We are looking at a network, a hidden world beneath the surface, a world where movement, communication, and survival could all take place unseen. Stay with the story, because in the next part, we go deeper than ever before into the possibility that these underground cities were part of something much larger, a connected system that may have stretched far beyond a single region and far beyond what we discovered so far. What if these underground cities were never meant to exist alone? What if they were designed to be connected, forming a hidden world beneath the surface? Because the deeper we go, the more one idea begins to take shape. These were not isolated shelters. They may have been part of something much bigger. Before we go further, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe. because what you're about to uncover could completely change how we understand ancient civilizations. Because now, we are no longer looking at a single underground city. We are looking at a system, a network, a hidden layer of the ancient world. Let's return once again to Cappadocia. Hey, underground cities like Derinkuyu Underground City and Cappadocia Underground City exist just a few kilometers apart. But what makes this even more fascinating is that there is evidence suggesting they may have been connected underground, through tunnels. Some of these tunnels stretch for kilometers. Narrow, controlled pathways carved into the rock. If fully functional, they would have allowed people to move between cities without ever coming to the surface. Imagine that. A hidden transportation system. Invisible. Protected. Silent. A network where entire populations could relocate without being seen. And suddenly, the purpose of underground cities begins to change. They are no longer just shelters. They become nodes, parts of a larger system. But Cappadocia is not the only place where this pattern appears. In parts of Germany and Austria, researchers have discovered mysterious underground tunnels often referred to as Erdstall. These are not natural caves. They are man-made, narrow passages carved into the earth. Some so tight that a person must crawl through them. Others open into small chambers. Their purpose is still debated. Some believe they were used as escape routes during times of danger. Others suggest ritual or symbolic use. But what stands out is their presence across wide regions. Once again, we see a familiar idea. Hidden underground pathways, appearing in different cultures, with similar designs. Now travel across the world to Peru. Beneath ancient sites, there are reports of underground tunnels that extend far beyond what has been fully explored. Local traditions even speak of long passages connecting distant locations beneath the land. While not all of these claims are fully confirmed, enough evidence exists to suggest something important. Underground construction was not rare. It was widespread. And when similar ideas appear across different civilizations, it raises a powerful question. Were these societies developing similar solutions independently, or were they responding to the same kind of problem? Because building underground is not easy. It requires planning, knowledge, understanding of structure, airflow, and stability. And yet, across continents, we see the same features. Hidden entrances, narrow tunnels, ventilation systems, controlled movement, defensive design. It's almost as if different civilizations followed the same blueprint, or arrived at the same conclusion, that survival sometimes depends on what lies beneath. Now imagine a world where the surface was not always safe, where environmental changes, disasters, or conflict made life above ground unpredictable. In such a world, underground networks would offer something unique: security, continuity, control, a way to survive without being exposed. But there's another possibility, one that takes this idea even further. What if these underground networks were not just for protection, but for movement? Because if tunnels connected multiple cities, they could allow people to travel unseen, to move goods, to communicate, to relocate entire populations without detection. It would be a completely different kind of infrastructure. Not roads above ground, but pathways below, hidden highways beneath the earth. And if that idea is even partially true, then what we had discovered so far may only be a small part of something much larger. Because many of these tunnels remain unexplored. Collapsed sections block entire pathways. Unknown chambers remain sealed. And in many cases, modern cities have been built directly above ancient underground systems, which means that beneath our feet, right now, there may be entire sections of these networks still waiting to be discovered, unseen, untouched, unknown. And that leads to one final, unsettling thought. What if some of these underground networks were never abandoned? What if they were simply forgotten? Because history records what survives on the surface. But underground, things remain hidden, preserved, protected, and sometimes lost until they are discovered again. Which brings us to the next part of this journey, because what we are about to explore goes beyond cities and beyond tunnels. We are about to enter spaces that do not look like homes, do not function like shelters, and may not have been built for survival at all. Spaces that feel intentional, precise, and deeply mysterious. Stay with the story, because what lies ahead may be the most unexplained part of the underground world yet. What if some underground spaces were never meant to protect life, but to serve a purpose we no longer understand? Because as we go deeper into the hidden world beneath ancient cities, something begins to change. The structures stop looking like homes. They stop feeling like shelters. And instead, they begin to feel intentional in a completely different way. Before we uncover these strange underground spaces, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to explore may challenge everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Because now, we are entering the most mysterious layer of the underground world. Spaces that don't follow the rules. Spaces that don't explain themselves. Spaces that raise more questions than answers. In ancient Egypt, beneath some of the most iconic structures ever built, lies a hidden layer that still remains largely unexplored. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, modern scanning has revealed voids, spaces that were intentionally created, yet remain sealed. These are not natural gaps. They are not structural accidents. They are placed with precision, aligned with the geometry of the pyramid, which means they were designed. But for what? They are too small to live in, too isolated for storage, too deliberate to be meaningless, which raises a powerful question. Why build something so carefully and then hide it? Some researchers believe these spaces had symbolic meaning, possibly connected to beliefs about the afterlife, a journey, a transition between worlds. Others suggest they may have been built to protect something, a chamber so carefully hidden it was never meant to be easily found. But there is no clear answer, and that uncertainty is what makes it so fascinating. Because when we look beyond Egypt, we find something even more unusual. In Malta, there exists a structure that feels almost impossible for its time. The house Saflieni Hypogeum. Unlike underground cities, this is not a place for living. Unlike tunnels, it is not built for movement. It is a carefully carved underground complex with a very different kind of design. Multiple levels, interconnected chambers, smooth, curved walls. But what makes it truly extraordinary is how it behaves. The chambers interact with sound. Certain frequencies resonate through the walls. Voices echo in unnatural ways. Even a whisper can travel across the space with surprising clarity. It's as if the structure was designed to amplify sound. But why? What purpose would require such precision? Some believe it was used for rituals, chanting, ceremonies that relied on sound and resonance. Others suggest something even more mysterious, that these spaces were designed to create an experience, a psychological effect, a controlled environment that influenced how people felt and what they believed. And this idea begins to change everything, because now we are no longer looking at underground spaces as physical structures. We are looking at them as environments, spaces designed not just for function, but for effect. And this pattern does not stop here. In parts of Turkey, beyond the massive underground cities, smaller isolated chambers have been discovered. These are not connected to living spaces. They are hidden, difficult to access, and often perfectly symmetrical. No signs of daily life, no tools, no storage, just empty, carefully shaped space. Which raises another question. Why invest so much effort into creating a space with no obvious use? Because carving into rock is not easy. It requires time, skill, labor. Every chamber had a purpose, even if that purpose has been lost. Now imagine standing inside one of these underground chambers. No sunlight, no wind, just stillness. Your voice echoes differently. The air feels heavier. The silence feels deeper. It's not just a room. It's an experience. And that may be the key. Because these spaces may not have been built for survival, but for something else entirely. Something we no longer fully understand. When we compare these structures across different civilizations, we begin to see patterns, precision, geometry, acoustic design, controlled access. It's as if ancient builders understood how to shape space in ways that influence human perception, a level of knowledge that may have been lost or simply misunderstood today. Because modern construction focuses on efficiency, but these ancient spaces feel intentional in a different way. They were not just built, they were crafted, designed to create something specific, which leads us to the final and most important question. What was the true purpose of these underground worlds? Were they simply practical solutions to real-world problems? Or were they part of something greater? Something deeper? Something we have not yet fully uncovered? Because in the final part of this journey, everything comes together. The underground cities, the hidden networks, the mysterious chambers. And we ask the biggest question of all. What were ancient civilizations really building beneath our feet? Stay with the story, because what comes next may completely change the way you see history and the hidden world below it. What if everything we've explored so far is only the surface of a much deeper truth? Because when you step back and connect everything, the underground cities, the hidden tunnel networks, the mysterious chambers, you begin to see something that is impossible to ignore. This wasn't random. This wasn't rare. This was repeated. Across civilizations, across continents, across thousands of years. Before we uncover the final truth behind these underground worlds, make sure you stay with the journey and subscribe, because what you're about to understand may completely change the way you see ancient history. Because now, everything connects. In Cappadocia, massive underground cities like Derinkuyu Underground City and Cappadocia Underground City were built deep beneath the surface, capable of supporting thousands of people. In Rome, the vast Roman catacombs created an entire hidden layer beneath a living city. In Egypt, the unexplained voids inside the Great Pyramid of Giza continue to challenge everything we think we know. And in Malta, the How Saflieni Hypogeum reveals a level of design that goes far beyond survival. Different cultures, different timelines, different purposes, and yet the same idea keeps appearing. Build below, hide below, preserve below. This is not coincidence. This is a pattern. And when patterns repeat across history, they usually point to something important. The simplest explanation is survival. Underground environments offer protection, stable temperatures, safety from disasters, a controlled environment in an unpredictable world. But if survival was the only goal, then why go so far? Why build cities capable of holding thousands? Why create tunnel networks stretching for kilometers? Why design chambers with precision, symmetry, even acoustic effects? These are not just shelters. They are systems. And systems are built with long-term thinking, which leads to a deeper possibility. What if these underground worlds were designed not just to protect people, but to preserve something? Because underground, time moves differently. Structures are protected from erosion. Artifacts remain hidden. Entire spaces can survive for thousands of years. What if ancient civilizations understood this? What if they intentionally built underground to ensure that something would survive even if the surface world changed? Knowledge, culture, belief systems, history. Because if you wanted to protect something from time itself, you wouldn't place it above the ground. You would hide it beneath it. And then comes the most powerful question of all. What if we haven't found everything yet? Because even today, discoveries continue. Hidden tunnels beneath cities, sealed chambers beneath ruins, unknown voids detected by modern scanning technology. And many of these discoveries happen by accident. A construction project reveals a hidden passage. A collapse exposes a sealed entrance. A scan detects a space where nothing should exist. Which means the story is far from over. There may still be entire underground worlds waiting to be discovered. Cities beneath cities. Networks beneath continents. Secrets buried deep beneath our feet. And the most fascinating part? The people who built these places knew they might never be seen. They built them knowing they would remain hidden, waiting for someone, someday, to find them. So the next time you walk through a city, think about what lies beneath. Because beneath the roads, beneath the buildings, beneath the noise of everyday life, there could be another world, silent, ancient, hidden in darkness. A world that still holds answers to questions we haven't even asked yet. And maybe, one day, those answers will change everything we know about the past. If you want to explore more hidden histories, lost civilizations, and the mysteries buried beneath our world, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because history isn't gone. It's just hidden, waiting to be discovered.